Are your legs suddenly heavier than they used to be? Do you feel stiff climbing a single flight of stairs, or notice cramps after walking to the mailbox? If so, the cause might not be what you think. The shocking truth is that some everyday foods, and even a couple of widely recommended vitamins when taken without testing, can quietly make leg pain, swelling, cramps, and weakness worse for older adults. Over weeks and months, these small things add up, and they steal the strength that keeps you independent. I want to be clear from the start. I'm not saying every person who eats these foods or takes supplements will experience problems. People are different. But for many older adults, certain dietary patterns and supplement habits are real risk factors that can worsen inflammation, impair circulation, and disrupt mineral balance. And those effects often show up first in the legs. In this video, I'll walk you through a countdown of 15 common culprits, from sugary treats to fried snacks to hidden additives, explain how each one works, and offer simple swaps you can start today. I'll also reveal the 2 supplement risks that are surprisingly common and particularly harmful for legs. But first, let's talk about what you're feeling and why it matters. Think about the last time you climbed the stairs. Did you pause halfway, put your hand on the railing, or feel a dull ache in your thighs? Maybe your feet swell when you stand too long, or you wake with morning stiffness that slowly loosens. These aren't just annoying, they're warning signs. The process of aging includes muscle loss, sarcopenia, slower circulation, and changes in how our bodies absorb nutrients. Add chronic inflammation, poor blood sugar control, or excess salt, and the small daily tasks get harder. For older adults, declining leg strength increases fall risk, makes driving and shopping more stressful, and chips away at independence. Now, I said shocking in the title because many of these culprits are things people consider harmless. Desserts, packaged bread, a protein bar now and then. Even more surprising, some vitamins meant to help bones and immunity can, in excess, make muscles weaker and cause cramps. That's why the approach here is not to scare you, but to inform you. Identify likely problem foods, understand the biological reasons they harm leg health, and make realistic changes while working with your clinician. If protecting your mobility matters to you, hit subscribe now so you don't miss practical, evidence-focused tips like this. Okay, let's count down from 15 to 1. Each item will include what it is, how it can affect your legs, where it's commonly found, signs to watch for, and one practical swap. 15. Sweets and sugary desserts. Sugar is the easy villain to start with because it's everywhere. When you eat lots of sugary treats, cakes, candies, pastries, syrup-laden breakfasts, your body reacts in ways that go beyond just extra calories. Repeated spikes in blood sugar trigger low-level inflammation across the body. That inflammation affects nerves, blood vessels, and the tiny muscle fibers that keep you stable on your feet. High sugar intake also worsens insulin resistance over time, which reduces the muscle's ability to use glucose for fuel and slows recovery after activity. Typical sources are obvious: store-bought cakes, boxed cookies, candy bars, and sweetened beverages. But hidden sugars live in sauces, flavored yogurts, and many low-fat packaged foods. Signs that sugar might be a problem for your legs include slower recovery after walking, unexplained fatigue in your thighs, increased swelling after a sweet-heavy meal, and more frequent cramps. Swap. Replace obvious sweets with whole food options that manage sweetness without spikes. Try a small portion of fresh fruit with plain Greek yogurt, or a homemade granola that relies on nuts and oats for texture rather than refined sugar. If you crave a dessert, make baked fruit. Slice an apple or pear, sprinkle with cinnamon, and roast. You'll get sweetness, fiber, and less inflammatory load. 14. Fried foods. Fried foods deliver immediate satisfaction, but the fats used for frying, especially when reused or overly processed, promote inflammation and can harm blood vessels. Repeated consumption of deep-fried items increases oxidative stress, which impairs endothelial function. In plain terms, the lining of your blood vessels works less efficiently, reducing blood flow to muscles and slowing the delivery of oxygen and nutrients. For aging legs that already have marginal circulation, this can mean more aches, cramps, and slower healing. Common sources include fast food fries, fried chicken, battered fish, and any snack fried in industrial oils. Even home-fried items can be a problem if the oil is old or overheated. Signs include a heavy feeling in the calves after a fried meal day, longer recovery after a walk, or increased soreness in areas with prior joint problems. Swap. Choose cooking methods that protect healthy fats and maintain flavor. Bake, grill, steam, or air fry. If you want crunch, roast nuts or chickpeas with a sprinkle of seasoning. When you want the experience of fried, try panko-baked coatings or lightly pan-searing in a small amount of olive oil. 13. White bread and refined grains. White bread, pastries made with refined flour, and many breakfast cereals deliver quick energy followed by a crash. Refined grains are low in fiber and key nutrients, which promotes inflammation and poor blood sugar control. Over time, this pattern contributes to insulin resistance and reduced muscle protein synthesis, which are both important in preserving leg strength. Low-fiber foods also leave you feeling less satisfied, so you may eat more calories without getting the nutrients your muscles need. You'll find refined grains in white sandwich bread, many crackers, most instant cereals, commercial muffins, and many processed snack bars. Watch for symptoms like persistent low energy in the legs, more frequent cramping after activity, and slower muscle recovery. Swap. Move toward whole grain choices. Whole grain bread, steel-cut oats, quinoa, and barley. Whole grains provide fiber, B vitamins, and magnesium, nutrients supportive of muscle function. If taste is a barrier, gradually mix half whole grain and half white to ease the transition. 12. Alcoholic beverages. Alcohol affects muscle metabolism, sleep quality, hydration, and nutrient absorption. Regular or excessive alcohol intake increases inflammation and interferes with the repair processes muscles rely on after even gentle exercise. It can also disrupt sleep, preventing the restorative hormone cycles that support muscle rebuilding. For older adults, alcohol can worsen neuropathy, increase fall risk, and contribute to swelling in the legs by affecting circulation and the liver's ability to manage fluids and proteins. Typical sources are obvious: beer, wine, and spirits. But also watch mixed drinks and pre-mixed cocktails that carry added sugar and sodium. Signs alcohol may be contributing include increased leg cramping after drinking days, swelling the following morning, poor sleep-related stiffness, and overall reduced stamina. Swap. Cut back gradually. Replace evening drinks with sparkling water with a slice of citrus or herbal tea. If social drinking is important, set a limit. For many older adults, fewer than one standard drink per day is a reasonable target. And avoid drinking close to bedtime. Stay hydrated and eat a balanced snack with protein when you drink to blunt sharp blood sugar swings. 11. Processed meats. Sausages, hot dogs, deli meats, and many canned or packaged meats are high in sodium, preservatives, and saturated fats. The high salt content leads to fluid retention and worsens swelling in the lower legs. Preservatives, along with the advanced glycation end products that form in processed meats, promote inflammation and can damage small blood vessels. Additionally, processed meats often displace healthier protein options, so you may miss out on nutrients like magnesium and potassium that protect muscle function. You'll find processed meats in lunch combos, ready-made meal kits, and many packaged snacks. If your legs feel heavier later in the day, or if you notice increased swelling after eating deli sandwiches, processed meats might be part of the problem. Swap. Choose fresh, minimally processed proteins. Grilled chicken, turkey breast, canned fish packed in water, watch sodium, or plant-based proteins like lentils and beans. If you enjoy deli-style convenience, look for low-sodium, nitrate-free options and add plenty of vegetables to increase fiber and potassium. 10. Instant noodles. Instant noodles are a staple for convenience, but they're typically high in sodium, industrial fats, and flavor packets loaded with additives. The sodium alone encourages fluid retention and raised blood pressure, both of which can lead to heavier, puffier legs. The low protein and low fiber profile means these meals are calorie-dense but nutrient-poor, depriving muscles of the building blocks they need for maintenance and repair. You know them: quick cook packets and cup noodles. Symptoms to watch for include increased swelling within hours of eating, a general feeling of leg puffiness, and poor stamina after a meal-heavy day. Swap. Make a quick, nourishing bowl at home. Use whole grain or legume-based noodles, add a frozen vegetable mix, and toss in a small portion of cooked chicken, tofu, or an egg. Flavor with low-sodium broth, fresh garlic, and ginger. This gives you the speed you want without the sodium overload. 9. Industrially made cakes and pastries. Packaged cakes are designed for shelf life, which means they contain preservatives, trans fats in some cases, and refined sugars. These ingredients promote systemic inflammation and may interfere with normal tissue repair. The combination of sugar and refined flour also affects blood sugar regulation, which, as we mentioned earlier, has direct implications for muscle energy and recovery. These products are in supermarkets, bakery chains, and, as the treat, at many celebrations. Watch for increased morning stiffness on days when you indulge, or more frequent cramps if these items are a regular part of your diet. Swap. When you want a treat, bake at home with whole grain flour or try recipes that use mashed banana or applesauce as natural sweeteners. Or choose a small portion of dark chocolate, in moderation, paired with nuts. It satisfies sweet cravings while offering antioxidants and healthy fats. 8. Ultra-processed cheeses and cheese-like spreads. Processed cheeses and cheese spreads are high in sodium, saturated fats, and often contain emulsifiers and other additives. They're easy to overconsume, and they don't offer the same nutrient profile as regular, minimally processed cheeses. Excess sodium promotes fluid retention and edema in the lower limbs. Additives can provoke low-level inflammation in sensitive people. And the caloric density can push your body toward weight gain, an extra stressor for leg joints and muscles. You'll find these in singles for sandwiches, processed spreads, and many snack foods. If you notice your calves or ankles feel swollen after a cheese-heavy sandwich or snack, or if you have more joint pain the day after, consider your processed cheese intake. Swap. Choose minimally processed dairy. A modest portion of real cheddar, feta, cottage cheese, or Swiss will give you calcium and protein without the same additive load. Alternatively, use hummus or mashed avocado as creamy sandwich spreads for healthy fats and fiber that actually support muscle health. Between each of these items, ask yourself, do I feel heavier, stiffer, or more swollen after eating this? Keeping a simple food and symptom journal for a week can reveal patterns you never noticed. A short notebook entry, what you ate, how your legs felt later, can be invaluable to show a clinician and to guide small changes. Now we're halfway through the list, and some patterns have already emerged. Foods that spike blood sugar, seed inflammation, overload sodium, or lack muscle-supporting nutrients tend to undermine leg function. The next group contains some surprises, items many people assume are harmless everyday choices. Up next, the desserts, chocolates, and canned foods that quietly contribute to muscle fatigue and swelling. And after that, we'll get to the top 3, including an additive that can affect nerve signaling, and finally, the 2 supplement risks that can do real harm when taken without testing. 7. Industrial ice creams. Ice cream is a universal pleasure, but the industrial varieties often pack a triple threat: high sugar, saturated fats, and emulsifiers or stabilizers. The sugar component drives inflammation and insulin response. The saturated fats and certain additives can impair healthy lipid metabolism and increase oxidative stress. For older adults with borderline circulation, that can translate into slower oxygen delivery to leg muscles and more soreness after activity. Large portions add excess calories that can contribute to weight gain, another mechanical burden on knees and hips. These are in tubs, pre-portioned desserts, and many restaurant menus. Look for signs like increased heaviness in the thighs after a dessert-heavy evening or prolonged soreness the day after indulging. Swap. Try a small scoop of premium, lower-sugar ice cream made with real ingredients, or a homemade frozen yogurt blended with berries. Sorbets made from real fruit can satisfy the craving without the same inflammatory effects. If dairy bothers you, look for high-protein, low-sugar frozen options that provide more nutritional value. 6. Milk chocolates. Milk chocolate is widely enjoyed, but it typically contains more sugar and less cocoa than dark chocolate. The higher sugar content contributes to inflammation and energy crashes, while the lower cocoa percentage reduces the antioxidant benefit that dark chocolate offers. Frequent snacking on milk chocolate can therefore be a net negative for inflammation control and muscle recovery. You see milk chocolates in candy bars, boxed chocolates, and many snack-sized treats. Symptoms that point to milk chocolate being an issue include increased leg fatigue after a sweet snack, more frequent cramps, or an evening swelling pattern when chocolate is part of nightly habits. Swap. Move towards small portions of dark chocolate, 70% cacao or higher, in moderation. Dark chocolate has more antioxidants and less sugar, and a small square can provide satisfaction without the same inflammatory load. Pair it with nuts for protein and healthy fats. 5. Canned foods. Canned foods are convenient and sometimes nutritious, but many are high in sodium and preservatives. High sodium intake promotes fluid retention and higher blood pressure, which worsens lower extremity swelling and can reduce the efficiency of microcirculation. Additionally, some canned items are packed with added sugars or unhealthy fats, which compound the problem. Common culprits include canned soups, canned vegetables in brine, canned sauces, and some ready-made canned meals. Watch for a pattern of puffiness or tightness in the ankles and lower legs after several canned meals in a week. Swap. Choose low-sodium or no-salt added varieties and rinse canned vegetables before use. Incorporate frozen vegetables and plain canned beans, rinsed thoroughly, as low-sodium, nutrient-dense options. When using canned soups, dilute with low-sodium broth and add fresh greens or lean protein. 4. Filled cookies and processed snack packs. Those individually wrapped cookies and snack packs are engineered for taste and shelf life. They're typically high in refined flours, sugars, industrial fats, and sodium. The combination promotes inflammation, blood sugar volatility, and nutrient-poor calories that do nothing to support muscle maintenance. Because they're so easy to eat, snack packs can displace whole food snacks that would provide protein, fiber, and minerals necessary for muscle recovery. Find them in vending machines, checkout aisles, and lunch boxes. If you notice mid-afternoon leg fatigue or more frequent cramps on days when you rely on these snacks, they may be taking a toll. Swap. Prepare simple, portable alternatives. A small container of mixed nuts, a hard-boiled egg, a piece of fruit with a handful of seeds, or whole-grain crackers with hummus. These swaps provide steady energy and nutrients like magnesium and potassium that help muscles function. 3. Monosodium glutamate, MSG. MSG is used as a flavor enhancer in many processed foods and some restaurant dishes. While most people tolerate MSG without clear symptoms, certain individuals, particularly older adults with multiple sensitivities or pre-existing nerve issues, may experience worsening of muscle discomfort, cramps, or a tingling sensation. One plausible mechanism involves overactivation of glutamate receptors, which in extreme cases can contribute to neuroexotoxic stress. Even without that extreme, MSG-containing foods often co-occur with high sodium, refined fats, and other additives that increase inflammation. Watch for symptoms like sudden onset muscle tightness or cramping after eating heavily seasoned processed meals or certain takeout dishes. If you're sensitive, you may notice these symptoms reliably after meals with strong flavor packets or sauces. Swap. Cook more from scratch when possible. Use fresh herbs, lemon, vinegar, and spices to boost flavor without reliance on flavor enhancer packets. When ordering out, request no added MSG and choose simpler preparations. At this point, you may be feeling a shift. Many of the items on this list are not obscure. They're staples because they're cheap, quick, and satisfying. That's why the next segment is critical. The top 2 entries aren't just foods, they're nutrients people often take as supplements with good intentions. Without blood testing and medical oversight, those supplements may be the exact things making your legs worse. We'll go deep on both in the next section: how excess forms, what symptoms to watch for, why older adults are at higher risk, and what specific blood tests to ask your clinician to run. Before that, let's pause and summarize what you can do immediately. Small changes now can ease symptoms and buy you time while you get the right tests. First, prioritize protein with every meal. Muscles need amino acids to maintain strength. Include magnesium and potassium-rich foods like leafy greens, nuts, beans, and bananas. These minerals help prevent cramps and support muscle function. Second, reduce obvious sources of sodium and refined sugar. Third, replace processed fats and frying with baking, steaming, or grilling. And fourth, keep a simple food and symptom log to share with your healthcare provider. If you've been nodding along, recognizing these patterns in your own life, take a breath. The goal here is control, not perfection. The changes we're talking about are doable, and in a few minutes we'll tackle the two most surprising culprits, excess vitamin A and excess vitamin D. Both are fat-soluble and can accumulate in the body. Both are commonly taken by older adults for bone and immune health. Yet in excess, they can cause muscle pain, cramps, weakness, and even calcification problems that specifically affect leg mobility. But before we get into the deep medical details and the lab tests you should ask for, let me tell you a few real-world examples so these mechanisms feel less abstract. Imagine an active 72-year-old named Nora. She loved morning walks but found herself slowing over the course of the year. Her primary doctor noted mild ankle swelling and recommended a low-sodium diet. Nora cut back on obvious salty snacks but still ate packaged soups and enjoyed an evening dessert every night. She also took an over-the-counter multivitamin plus an additional vitamin A supplement because she'd read it was good for her eyesight. Over months, she developed more cramps and a persistent stiffness in her calves that didn't respond to stretching. When her clinician checked labs, her vitamin A level was higher than expected, and the combination of fluid retention from sodium and mineral shifts from the vitamin excess helped explain her symptoms. Adjusting her supplement under medical guidance and reducing processed foods helped to regain some ease walking. Or consider Henry, a 68-year-old who took a popular high-dose vitamin D supplement because he'd seen it recommended for bone health. He felt more tired, developed muscle aches, and noticed swelling in his legs after several months. His clinician ordered a 25-hydroxy vitamin D test and serum calcium. The calcium was moderately elevated. In his case, excess vitamin D had increased calcium absorption, leading to hypercalcemia, which can blunt muscle function and cause weakness. Under physician supervision, his dose was adjusted and his symptoms gradually improved. These stories highlight two important ideas. First, supplements that seem beneficial can harm when taken without testing. Second, diet and supplements interact. Sodium, sugar, and processed foods can amplify harm from nutrient imbalances. That's why the final items on our countdown, the top two, deserve careful attention and testing before any change is made. If you found this useful so far, now is a good time to pause and reflect on what you eat most days. Which of the items we've covered are regular features for you? A short, honest inventory will make the next steps with your clinician much more productive. In the next segment, we'll examine those two vitamins in depth, how excess happens, the exact symptoms you should mention to your doctor, and the blood tests that will give you a clear picture. We'll also outline safe ways to adjust diet and supplements without putting your overall health at risk. Before we move on, a practical checklist to take away right now. Drink more plain water between meals, add a palm-sized portion of protein to each meal, swap one processed snack per day for a whole food alternative, and start a 1-week food and symptom log to bring to your next medical visit. These steps are simple, low risk, and can reduce inflammation and swelling while you pursue more targeted testing. Now, we turn to the most consequential part of the countdown, the supplements that many people assume are always safe. If you take vitamins or are considering them, you'll want to listen closely to what follows. Let's dig into the two supplements that top this list, the ones most likely to surprise you because so many people take them thinking they're helping. I'm going to explain plainly how excess of each one can harm muscles and legs, how overuse commonly happens, what signs to look for, which blood tests to ask your clinician for, and safe next steps you can take while working with a healthcare professional. Start with vitamin A, the one that sits at number 2 on our countdown. Vitamin A. Why too much can hurt your muscles.
Vitamin A is essential. It's part of vision, immune function, and cell maintenance. But it's fat-soluble, which means the body stores it in the liver and fatty tissue.
When intake gets too high over time, those stores build up and start to cause trouble. In older adults, this is especially important because the liver's capacity to process things and the body's balance of minerals can change with age. How excess vitamin A commonly happens? People get too much vitamin A in a few familiar ways. One is oversupplementation, taking multiple pills or high-dose vision supplements without checking total intake. Another is combining supplements with frequent consumption of organ meats, especially liver, which are extremely high in preformed vitamin A. Finally, some cod liver oil products or specialty multivitamins provide extra retinol on top of a regular multivitamin, so it's easy to exceed a safe total without noticing. What excess vitamin A does to muscles and bones? High vitamin A levels can cause muscle and joint pain, stiffness, and a nagging sense of weakness. Mechanistically, excess preformed vitamin A can affect bone remodeling and the balance of minerals that muscles need to function well. In some cases, chronic overexposure is associated with bone pain and an increased risk of fractures, because vitamin A can shift how bone is built and broken down. On the soft tissue side, liver accumulation of vitamin A can affect overall metabolism and inflammation levels, which in turn impacts nerve signaling and muscle recovery. Symptoms to watch for. If vitamin A is part of your issue, common cues include persistent muscle aches that don't track to an obvious injury, worsening stiffness in the mornings, cramps that feel resistant to usual remedies, hair thinning or unusually dry skin, and ongoing fatigue even when sleep and activity haven't changed. Because vitamin A affects the liver in high amounts, some people also notice nausea, a general feeling of being unwell, or unexplained weight loss, which are all signs to bring immediately to a clinician. Who is at higher risk? Older adults who take multiple supplements, people who eat liver regularly, anyone on high-dose single nutrient supplements without lab testing, and those with reduced liver function are at greater risk. Also be aware that some popular beauty or vision formulas include high amounts of preformed vitamin A. If you're using several such products, the totals add up fast. Tests to request. If you or your clinician suspect vitamin A excess, ask about checking serum retinol or vitamin A levels where available, and liver function tests, AST, ALT. Because vitamin A interacts with bone and mineral metabolism, a clinician may also check serum calcium and other markers as part of a broader evaluation. Be clear with your clinician about all supplements, fortified foods, and liver intake so they can interpret tests correctly. What to tell your clinician? Bring a list of everything you take: multivitamins, cod liver oil, omega supplements, vision blends, and over-the-counter remedies. Mention how long you've been taking each one and any dietary patterns. G. Weekly liver dishes. Share your food and symptom logs so the clinician can see timing patterns. For example, if cramps increased during periods you ate more of certain foods or took extra pills. Safe next steps you can take now. Do not abruptly stop prescribed supplements without medical guidance, but you can prepare to act. Stop adding additional vitamin-containing products temporarily until you've had a professional review, and bring your supplements to your medical visit for a medication reconciliation. Consider swapping out liver-based meals for other protein sources while you sort this out. If your clinician confirms elevated vitamin A, they will advise the safest way to reduce exposure and monitor recovery. Often this means stopping the excess source and rechecking levels and liver enzymes periodically. Dietary swaps that help while you sort vitamin A. Swap liver dishes for lean poultry or fatty fish like salmon, which provide healthy omega-3s without the preformed vitamin A load. If you use cod liver oil daily, switch to a regular fish oil that provides omega-3s without retinol, but do this only after discussing with your clinician. Prioritize colorful vegetables and fruits for provitamin A, beta-carotene, rather than preformed vitamin A sources. Beta-carotene from plants converts to vitamin A only as needed by the body, and excess intake from foods rarely causes toxicity. Now let's move to the number one shocker on this list, vitamin D. Vitamin D, why more is not always better.
Vitamin D has a deserved reputation for supporting bone health and immunity, and many older adults are advised to take it. But vitamin D is also fat-soluble and accumulates in the body. When levels get too high, the most consistent problem is an increase in blood calcium, hypercalcemia, and that can directly impair muscle function. In plain terms, too much vitamin D can raise calcium enough to make muscles feel weak, crampy, or stiff. How excess vitamin D most often occurs. The common scenarios are high-dose supplementation without testing, taking a prescription-strength dose for too long, or combining multiple vitamin D-containing products, multivitamin plus separate vitamin D pill, fortified beverages, and over-the-counter high-dose capsules. Because vitamin D is often recommended for bone health, people sometimes increase their dose on their own, thinking more will help. In some cases, providers who aren't monitoring levels may continue higher doses longer than necessary. Older adults with reduced kidney function are also more susceptible to calcium handling problems, so the same supplement can have a bigger effect. What excess vitamin D does to muscles and circulation. When vitamin D elevates blood calcium, muscles can become fatigued, weak, and prone to cramps. High calcium alters the electrical environment muscles need to contract properly, making simple activities, standing from a chair, climbing a step, or walking around the block, feel harder. Chronic high calcium can also promote calcification in soft tissues and blood vessels, which reduces flexibility and can worsen circulation to the lower limbs. On top of that, vitamin D excess can cause nausea, confusion, and thirst, symptoms that can contribute to falls and weakness if they go unrecognized. Symptoms to watch for. Watch for generalized muscle weakness, not just soreness, cramps that are more intense or frequent than usual, unusual fatigue, nausea or constipation, increased thirst and urination, and episodes of confusion. Mild hypercalcemia may be subtle, so if you're taking vitamin D and notice progressive leg weakness or worsening cramps, it's worth checking levels. Who is at higher risk? People taking high-dose vitamin D supplements without monitoring, those taking calcium supplements at the same time, people with reduced kidney function, and anyone on multiple vitamin-containing products are at increased risk. Also, recent changes in dosing, for example, switching from a multivitamin-only routine to adding a high-dose bottle, raise the chance that total intake exceeds what the body needs. Tests to request. Ask your clinician for a 25-hydroxyvitamin D blood test. That's the standard measure of vitamin D status. Also request a serum calcium test, total calcium. Your clinician may want ionized calcium in some situations. And if calcium is high, kidney function tests and parathyroid hormone, PTH, may be needed to understand why. If your clinician suspects organ stress, liver enzymes, or other metabolic panels could be useful. Be sure to tell your clinician about all supplements and calcium-containing products. What to tell your clinician? Bring every supplement bottle and list the dosages and brands. Explain the timing of symptoms, when the weakness or cramps started relative to starting or changing supplements. Share your food and symptom log so they can see patterns associated with supplement changes or meals. If your clinician finds high vitamin D or calcium, they can guide a safe taper, monitor levels, and manage any complications. Safe next steps you can take now. Don't stop long-term prescribed vitamin D without talking to your provider, but you can pause adding new vitamin D products until you've had testing, and avoid taking separate calcium supplements at the same time unless your clinician has advised both. Also, reduce other sources of excess vitamin D, fortified beverages, or additional pills temporarily until testing clarifies your status. If tests show high vitamin D or calcium, if your clinician confirms elevated 25-OHD and/or serum calcium, the typical strategy is to identify and stop the excess source or adjust dosing under supervision, ensure proper hydration, and recheck levels.
In cases of significant hypercalcemia, clinicians may need to manage fluids and monitor kidney function more closely. All of this must be done by your healthcare team. Don't try to treat hypercalcemia at home. A practical guide for conversations with your clinician. When you schedule your visit or message your clinician, use straightforward language and bring documentation. You can say something like, "Lately, I've had increasing leg weakness and cramping. I take X supplements, list them, and eat Y types of foods. Mention liver, fish oils, fortified drinks. Could we check 25-hydroxyvitamin D, serum calcium, and liver function tests to rule out excess or interactions?" That request is focused and actionable, and most clinicians will know how to proceed. Red flags: when to seek urgent care. If you experience severe muscle weakness that prevents normal walking, fainting, severe vomiting, severe confusion, chest pain, or an inability to stay awake, seek urgent medical attention. These can be signs of significant metabolic disturbance and need prompt evaluation. Putting these tests and steps into practice, a suggested checklist. Gather all supplements and prescription meds and make a written list with doses and frequency. Keep or start a 7 to 14-day food and symptom log, time of meals, what you ate, what supplements you took, and how your legs felt at intervals during the day. Call your clinician and request testing, 25-hydroxyvitamin D and serum calcium as first-line checks. Mention liver enzymes, AST, ALT, if you take vitamin A-containing products or cod liver oil. Ask your clinician to review supplements and advise whether you should pause any product before the visit. If tests are abnormal, follow your clinician's guidance on dose adjustment, stopping a product, or additional testing, PTH, creatinine, albumin-adjusted calcium. Reassess symptoms and labs with your clinician. Ask when to repeat testing so you have a monitoring plan. How diet and lifestyle changes reduce risk and support leg strength. While medical testing is the foundation, there are many daily steps you can take to support muscle function and reduce the chance that diet or supplements will worsen problems. Protein and muscle building. Muscle needs amino acids. Make sure each meal contains a source of protein. Eggs or Greek yogurt at breakfast, a sensible portion of lean poultry or fish at lunch, and beans, lentils, tofu, or lean meat at dinner. If chewing is an issue, use soft-cooked options like stewed chicken, canned salmon, low sodium, or well-cooked beans. The idea is regular, adequate protein to support maintenance and repair. Magnesium and potassium. These minerals help with muscle contraction and relaxation. Include magnesium-rich foods like spinach, almonds, pumpkin seeds, black beans, and whole grains. Potassium sources, bananas, potatoes with skin, avocados, and cooked greens support fluid balance and reduce cramp risk. If you take a medicine that affects magnesium or potassium, mention that to your clinician. Hydration and salt balance. Dehydration and high sodium intake both increase cramp risk and fluid shifts that can worsen leg swelling. Aim for steady fluid intake across the day and reduce high-sodium processed foods from our list to manage fluid balance. If you take diuretics or have a heart or kidney condition, discuss fluid and salt targets with your clinician first. Anti-inflammatory food choices. Favor whole food anti-inflammatory patterns, colorful vegetables and fruits, fatty fish, olive oil, nuts, legumes, and whole grains. These patterns reduce low-level chronic inflammation that undermines muscle recovery and circulation. Practical cooking and pantry swaps. Replace white bread with whole grain or sprouted grain options. Keep low-sodium broth and canned beans, well rinsed, on hand for quick meals. Swap instant noodles for whole grain or legume-based pasta. Add frozen vegetables and a simple protein. Use an air fryer, baking, or pan-searing instead of deep frying. Keep plain Greek yogurt and fresh fruit as a dessert alternative to sugary pastries. Choose minimally processed cheeses like cottage cheese or small portions of aged cheeses instead of processed singles and spreads. Easy snack ideas that support muscle health. A small handful of mixed nuts with a few dried cherries. Plain Greek yogurt with a small portion of berries and a sprinkle of ground flaxseed. Hummus with carrot sticks or whole grain crackers. A hard-boiled egg with a piece of fruit. Cottage cheese with sliced peaches or tomatoes and a pinch of pepper. A sample day that avoids common culprits and supports legs. Breakfast. Steel-cut oats topped with chopped almonds, a spoonful of plain yogurt, and sliced banana. Mid-morning snack.
a small apple and a tablespoon of almond butter. Lunch: grilled salmon salad with mixed greens, quinoa, roasted sweet potato, and an olive oil lemon dressing. Afternoon snack: pumpkin seeds and a few slices of cucumber. Dinner: baked chicken thigh, steamed broccoli, and a barley and vegetable pilaf. Evening treat: 1 square of dark chocolate, 70% plus, with a small handful of walnuts. Simple leg strengthening moves that require no equipment. Resistance and balance exercises help maintain and rebuild leg strength, reducing fall risk and improving the ability to get around. Always check with your clinician before beginning a new exercise routine. Sit to stand. From a sturdy chair, cross your arms and stand up slowly, then sit back down with control. Repeat 8 to 12 times once or twice per day. If too hard at first, use your hands to push lightly and progressively reduce support. Heel raises. Hold the back of a chair and lift your heels off the floor onto your toes, then slowly lower. Repeat 10 to 15 times. Marching in place. Lift knees one at a time as if marching, 30 to 60 seconds, build up to a few rounds. Side leg raises. Standing with a chair for balance, lift one leg to the side, keeping the torso straight. Repeat 10-12 times per side. Tandem stands for balance. Stand with one foot directly in front of the other, hold for 10-30 seconds, and switch. Use support if needed. How to use your food and symptom log effectively. Record date, time, what you ate, what supplements you took, and then 2 or 3 quick symptom notes. Leg heaviness, none, mild, moderate. Cramping, none, yes. Swelling, none, mild, moderate. And any other notable sensations, dizziness, nausea. Bring this to your clinician to show pattern rather than guesswork. Clinicians appreciate concrete daily notes. What to look for in supplement labels. Look for vitamin A sources. Retinol palmitate or retinol acetate indicate preformed vitamin A. Beta-carotene is a plant-based precursor and behaves differently. For vitamin D, labels usually list micrograms, mcg, or international units, IU. Don't assume multiple products are independent. Add them up. Check for cod liver oil or fish liver formulations. They often contain both vitamins A and D. Note serving size and the percent daily value so you can see how much of a given vitamin you're getting per serving. Working with older clinicians or specialists. If your primary care clinician isn't familiar with nuances around supplement toxicity, ask for a referral to a pharmacist, a clinical nutritionist, or an internist who can help interpret labs. Many clinics offer medication review services where a pharmacist will reconcile prescriptions and supplements to spot overlaps. Managing common fears. If I cut back on vitamin D, will my bones suffer? This is a reasonable concern. The key point is balance and testing. Vitamin D deficiency is harmful, so is excess. The responsible path is testing and tailoring. Get a baseline 25 OHD, then work with your clinician to establish a dosing plan that keeps you in a safe, effective range. Often, small adjustments and follow-up testing are all that's needed. An example conversation script for your clinician visit. I've noticed more leg weakness and cramps over the past few months. I take a multivitamin and a separate vitamin D supplement, and sometimes cod liver oil. I also eat liver occasionally. Could we check 25-hydroxyvitamin D, serum calcium, and liver function tests to make sure I'm not getting too much of these fat-soluble vitamins? I've kept a short log of my meals and symptoms to share. A realistic timeline for changes and expectations. After adjusting supplements and diet under a clinician's guidance, many people notice gradual improvement in muscle cramps and energy over weeks to a few months. Lab changes take time too. Vitamin levels and calcium may normalize over weeks to months depending on how much excess is present and the intervention used. Remember, this is not a race. The goal is safe, monitored correction rather than quick fixes that risk rebound or other problems. When to involve other professionals. If mobility is substantially impaired, ask for a physical therapy referral. If balance is a concern, an occupational therapist can help with home safety and adaptive strategies. If you have complex medication regimens, a pharmacist medication review can be invaluable for spotting overlapping supplements or interactions. Putting it all together, a practical weekly plan. Week 1. Start a food and symptom log. Gather and list all supplements, reduce obvious high sodium and high sugar items from the pantry, and pause any new products that contain extra vitamin A or D until testing. Increase protein at meals and add 1 magnesium-rich snack daily. Week 2. Call your clinician. Request 25-hydroxyvitamin D and serum calcium testing, and LFTs if you take cod liver oil or high vitamin A products. Begin gentle leg strengthening exercises 3 times this week. Sit to stand, heel raises. Week 3. Bring your log and supplements to your visit. Review lab results and work with your clinician on adjustments. If labs are normal, ask when to recheck and how much vitamin D, if any, is appropriate for you. Ongoing. Maintain the healthier swaps from our list, keep protein steady, and repeat testing if your clinician recommends it after changes. Final practical tips to avoid accidental excess. Never assume that more is better for fat-soluble vitamins. Test first. Avoid combining multiple single nutrient supplements unless directed by a clinician. If a supplement promises high doses for a specific condition online, run it by your clinician first. Keep a single record of all supplements and update it anytime you start a new product. Ask your clinician to document any agreed-upon supplement plan in your medical record so future providers can see the decision history. A few closing examples to remember. If you take a multivitamin plus an extra vision pill plus cod liver oil, you may be getting more vitamin A than you realize. If you take a multivitamin plus a separate high-dose vitamin D capsule and you add a calcium supplement, your total intake may raise blood calcium over time. If your legs feel progressively weaker or cramps get worse after starting a new supplement, treat that as a clue, not proof, to check blood levels. You came into this video because your legs matter, not just because you want less pain or fewer cramps, but because staying mobile is core to independence and quality of life. The point I want to leave you with is practical and empowering. Many of the diet and supplement contributors to leg weakness are within reach. You can reduce your exposure to problematic processed foods, make simple swaps that support muscle nutrients, and have targeted tests run to check whether supplements are helping or harming.
If you take one immediate action today, start the food and symptom log, gather your supplement bottles, and call your clinician to request testing for 25-hydroxyvitamin D and serum calcium, and mention liver tests if you use cod liver oil or take high vitamin A products. Bring that log to your visit and ask for a medication/supplement review. That single conversation can change the course of months of uncertainty. If this message resonated, check the description for a link to our next video where we walk step by step through a low-cost grocery list and a 7-day menu designed specifically to protect muscle function and reduce inflammation for older adults. Also ask your clinician for the tests we mentioned so you can get a clear picture of your vitamin status. You don't have to accept creeping weakness as inevitable. With testing, small dietary changes, and a plan created with your clinician, you can protect leg strength, reduce cramps and swelling, and keep your independence longer. I'll be here with more practical, evidence-focused tips to help you do just that. See you in the next video.